Cheers and salutations. Welcome one and all to Americans Learn. My name is Kit. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that ring bell notification. That way all of you are made aware when we upload new content upon our YouTube channel. And today, we have ourselves a fun video to check out. It is titled, from none other than Sabaton History, Screaming Eagles, Battle of the Bulge, Sabaton History, number 26. Goodness gracious, Cretaceous. Here we go. Let's get ready to check it out. And because it's such a phenomenal series by, again, a phenomenal YouTube channel, I'm going to encourage all of you lovely people to please support the original content creators. That link is in the description box below. Follow Sabaton on all their social media, be it Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, or any of the other social medias. Do so. Come on, it's the right thing to do because a lot of time, effort, and energy is made into making these awesome videos. And you know what the rules are. All of you should know it. We first get our learn on, and then we get an awesome music video at the end of it. So grab yourself a tasty snack and a tasty beverage, and let's get ready to enjoy this video in 3, 2, 1.
Sabaton.
And I'm Freddie Mercury.
And this is Sabaton History. Screaming eagles. You know, eagles don't actually scream. It's more like a ah, ah.
Indy, I'll pay you money not to do that again, buddy.
And our song,
You'll never live that one down.
Screaming Eagles, is about the 101st Airborne at the Battle of the Bulge.
Shout out to the 101st Airborne. Well done.
I am aware that people call them the 101st, but in terms of flow for an oral narrative, I'm going to call them the 101st, just so I can tell the story more smoothly. Spirits were high among the common German soldiers as they passed lines of tanks, shells, and ammunition on their way to the front lines in France and Belgium in the early December days of 1944. It had been a disastrous year for the Wehrmacht, suffering defeat after defeat on all fronts. But suddenly, there was this big army assembling in the West, ready to go on the offensive once again, with no lesser aim but to tear apart the Allied coalition in the West in one decisive thrust. It felt like 1940 all over again.
Not gonna work this time. But we do know about the Battle of the Bulge because, hey, there's been history books, documentary series, and, of course, HBO's Band of Brothers. That was in regards towards movies or TV shows that did show Battle of the Bulge. I think Band of Brothers did a phenomenal job in just catching the overall feel of that horrific time that the Allies were in a fight for their lives.
However, this was not the German army that had been sent on the offensive in Poland, France, or Russia 4 or 5 years before.
Nope.
By the early winter of 1944, Germany's military consisted partly of battle-hardened veterans and partly of young boys and old men that had been pressed into the now struggling war machine. The Reich was scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of conscription and logistics. Supply had always been a weakness of the German army, but in 1944, it clearly, seriously lacked adequate motorization, fuel, and ammunition to support an endeavor like this new Western one. The armored wedge of the offensive was an amalgamation of different models, as was the artillery. Some Panthers and Jagdpanzer, but mostly Panzer IVs and modified half-tracks. But
And again, this is why I cannot stand those alternate history books of what would happen if the Nazis won World War II. Spoiler alert, it would suck. The world would suck. But also, there's something, again, people don't really talk too much about. And that is, yes, Germany's known for blitzkrieg and mechanized warfare. But what people don't talk about is how its army was supplied. Horse-drawn carriages. Yes, this is true. They were never going to win. Okay? They didn't have access to oil fields. They didn't have access to stuff to maintain a mechanized warfare. No. So while they were the experts, they didn't have enough to maintain it. They were never going to win. It was never going to happen. Stop saying it's going to happen. It wasn't.
the Panzer Grenadiers rode on the tanks. The paratroopers were reinforced by young men from the Luftwaffe personnel, and the Volksgrenadiers were made of shattered divisions. So despite the impressive numbers, the army seemed to lack the capability of fulfilling Adolf Hitler's vision for destroying his enemies. As the attack finally began on December 16th, it did fail to achieve its objectives rather quickly. The 6th Panzer Army, which was supposed to lead the main attack, had been held up by stubborn American resistance at Saint-Vit, Malmedy, and Elsenborn Ridge. Even though the main thrust had failed, though, the supporting 5th Panzer Army had managed to achieve considerable success further south, as it had found a weak spot in the American lines in the Ardennes. Plans shifted on the spot. 5th Army would advance all the way to the River Meuse, taking the town of Bastogne in the process. Bastogne was not only a major traffic hub, but also a depot for Allied fuel, storing nearly 3 million gallons. A precious resource to the Germans if captured, sure, but even if destroyed, it would sabotage plans for an American offensive in the coming spring. If Bastogne were taken quickly, there might still be a chance to further advance beyond the Meuse and towards Namur. Before the offensive, the area around Bastogne was considered a pretty quiet sector of the front by American high command. It lay in between the operational sector of the 1st Army, which had been slogging through the Hütgen forest, and the 3rd Army south of Luxembourg, which was grinding against the German fortifications of the Siegfried Line. So the Ardennes had been seen as a resting zone for battered divisions, or a training ground for green units who needed to gain some experience from the small skirmishes that did take place there. To attack Bastogne, though, the Germans would have to send a large armored force through the thickly wooded Ardennes, with only a few roads available. Such a maneuver was considered extremely unlikely by the Allies, especially in the winter. I mean, a surprise attack through the Ardennes? Who could have predicted that? Sure, that was exactly what the Germans did in 1940, but not again, right?
Of course they'll do it. It's a tried and true method for the Blitzkrieg.
So, the Ardennes sector was only thinly held by 3 American divisions when the armored spearhead of the Germans appeared on the scene. Overrunning American lines, elements of the 5th Panzer Army then rushed in to exploit the break in those lines. They knew they had only a small window of time of maybe 4 or 5 days until the Allies would send in reinforcements. The Americans in the Ardennes had no hope of halting the German advance, but could at least try to blunt the spearhead and deprive the Germans of precious time. So in a fighting retreat, they delayed the Germans with anti-tank guns and bazookas, causing traffic jams by taking out the lead tanks on the narrow forest roads. Lieutenant General Omar Bradley, in overall command of the sector, had been
All right, Bradley, take it away.
promised big reinforcements, but they would take time. The only immediately available forces in the vicinity were the 82nd and the 101st Airborne Divisions, currently being refitted at Rheims after their costly attacks during Operation Market Garden. While the 82nd was sent north towards Saint-Vit, the 101st, Screaming Eagles, were rushed towards Bastogne. The 101st was an experienced and battle-proven unit, but it did not have adequate winter equipment and not really enough heavy weapons available either. Anyhow, after 2 days of fighting the German advance in the Ardennes, the American retreat had become total, and the troops flooded back towards Bastogne, away from the German panzers. The roads to Bastogne were open, but the weather worsened. This was bad for the Americans, as rain and fog grounded the American Air Force. But at Bastogne, the men prepared their defenses. Field artillery and M7 self-propelled howitzers dug in on a semicircular perimeter, while engineers turned the town into a fortress. The 19th, panzers appeared on the outskirts of town, and those American tanks that were available rode out to meet them, delaying the German advance once again. That night, the Screaming Eagles finally arrived in Bastogne. So too did the elite German Panzer Division. The next day, the Screaming Eagles were smack in the center of the action, while the...
Ugh, God. And it must have been brutally cold out there. Lack of winter equipment, winter gear. That would have destroyed anybody, man. Like, seriously. What these guys went through. The 101st, obviously. 101st Airborne, went through a nightmare situation. And that is why, at the end of the day, we got to respect the work that they have done and how they held the line. Going up against not only the weather, but the last desperate attempt by Hitler and the Third Reich. I just can't help but again think of maybe I should watch the series again, Band of Brothers. Get a chance to check it out one more time. Because that was a phenomenal series, and something that I encourage everyone to at least check out at least once. If you haven't checked out Band of Brothers, please do so. And if you don't own the book, because I own the book, it's a phenomenal read because the book goes into further detail than the show ever did.
German tanks and tank destroyers attacked and destroyed the retreating or bogged down American Army units just outside Bastogne. The 101st engaged the German infantry. Supported by field artillery, the Screaming Eagles fought through the outskirts and local villages and even barricaded themselves inside an old chateau, shooting down the Panzer Grenadiers who tried to flush them out. This stiff resistance cost the Germans even more time, and it was not until the 22nd that Bastogne was finally surrounded. Hitler gave the order, Bastogne must be taken at all cost. On that day, 2 blindfolded officers of the Panzerlehr approached the headquarters of General McAuliffe, in overall command of the various troops trapped inside the city. The 2 officers asked the Americans to surrender. Confronted by the offer, McAuliffe blurted out, laughing,
Nuts.
Nuts. Bastogne was encircled, true. But for days now, the Germans had tried unsuccessfully to break in and had been repelled time and again. And let's face it, being encircled was basically part of the job description of the 101st Airborne. Lost for adequate words.
I mean, yeah, it's in their eye-catching resume. Yeah, what? Getting surrounded? Fine. Breaking out? Always.
McAuliffe also just typed out nuts on the document. To the puzzled Germans who asked, what was this supposed to mean? The Americans simply explained that they should go to hell and that every German trying to get into the town was about to be killed.
Now, hold on. I like to be an expert. And check it out on my smartphone. Oh. That is the correct definition. And I will not be reprimanded, and I will not be called out. That is the correct definition of nuts.
So the German forces built up again, reinforced by more veteran Panzer Grenadiers from Italy and more tanks and tank destroyers. But the skies cleared, and the American Air Force was able to resupply the encircled city. The 101st had dug in on Christmas Day in the woods northeast of the city. Digging into the frozen ground in the woods was difficult, but every foxhole was a lifesaver as the German shells dropped all around them. In the freezing cold, the German grenadiers infiltrating the woods in white camouflage were met with rifle and machine gun fire, and the advancing panzers were engaged with bazookas and howitzers. Wave after wave, the Germans advanced on the 101st from different directions, but time and time again, the paratroopers and glider infantry fought them off in a series of vicious battles through woods and villages. Specialized tree buster shells were soon falling on the German positions, savaging the attackers with splinters and shrapnel. The Christmas attack was an absolute disaster for the Germans, with heavy casualties and the loss of a lot of tanks.
Beautiful.
The siege continued, but the major threat had been fought off. By the 26th, the reserves from Patton's Third Army finally established a corridor into Bastogne, though it would take several more days to secure it since the Germans were trying to cut it off. Skirmishes continued, but even newly arrived SS divisions could not establish another siege. By January, fearing that they might lose overall control of the front, German high command ordered a full retreat, and the overall strategic initiative in the West shifted to the Americans. By now, the U.S. Air Force was flying attacks again, and on January 12th, when the news of a Soviet winter offensive broke, so too did Hitler's last gamble in the West.
Yep, that was Hitler's last gamble, and he lost. And that is when we marched to Berlin and bring the fight to the Third Reich.
"101st Airborne." What about them?
Well, 101st Airborne, we visited them at Fort Campbell. And I just want to say to anyone who was there and to anyone in the 101st and at Fort Campbell, thank you for taking such good care of us.
Did you go to Bastogne as well?
Yes, I did. We saw the lovely Sherman tank they have on the town square.
I haven't been there. I've never
You
been
haven't?
there. No.
Oh, I recommend it. The forest outside of Bastogne where they, all of that crazy stuff from, Band of Brothers you can see in there.
Tell us about the actual song itself. How did this come up?
Actually, a bit different, this one. I was sitting very much alone in the old studio, and I was writing the music. And I didn't even have any idea what the song was going to be about at this time. To be honest, I might be destroying somebody's illusion of the songwriting process here. But I was so fucking angry and tired with myself because I've been
Oh my goodness. Hang on. Pay attention, folks.
writing a lot on the Coat of Arms album, and I just hadn't gotten that punchy, really hard, adrenaline rushing song yet. Probably about 1 or 2 in the morning, I just said, fuck this shit. I'm going to write a song and I'm not going home until I did. And in that case, that aggression I had towards myself actually just kickstarted that intro, and which became kind of the chorus as well, like making the guitar riff, and it's like, yeah, that's it, let's go next. Cool. So I just didn't give myself any chance to slow down and overthink it. So it just went like a train from beginning to end. And by 7 or 8 in the morning, it was all done. So it's actually one of the faster Sabaton songs ever written, from a songwriting perspective.
And the neighbors called and said they were really happy?
Yes, they loved it.
As they should. They better.
The entire songwriting process, they thought, wow.
Can't wait to hear your new album, man.
Love it.
Keep working at night, man. That's the thing. But hey, something you said before I want to get back to. You mentioned Band of Brothers.
Yes.
I love Band of Brothers.
So do I. It might seem obvious to a lot of people who are into history that, everybody has seen that. But
Well, they might not know that Band of Brothers is about these guys.
Yes. Oh, sorry. It is about the 101st Airborne. And there's a fantastic book called Band of Brothers, written by Stephen Ambrose, if I'm not mistaken as well.
But Band of Brothers itself, the series, you were saying about...
It's almost 20 years old now. And this is something, I guess, if you...
Wow. Hold on. Wait a minute. How old is Band of Brothers?
According to Wikipedia, Band of Brothers is a 2001 American war drama miniseries based on historian Stephen E. Ambrose's 1992 nonfiction book of the same name.
Wow. So 2001, it is 2023. It is 20. Oh my God, I am old man Kit. Well, time for me to mosey on out of here.
If you are under 25 or maybe under 30, you might have missed out on.
You shouldn't miss Band of Brothers. You guys, how awesome is Band of Brothers?
Awesome.
There you go.
And they're not saying that because they have to, because we could always cut it out and add some screams in
Yes, they better, or else.
there.
Yeah, we got to add some extra screams because they didn't sound enthusiastic enough.
Yeah, we want people to think we have a really big crew as well. Isn't that right, Sergey, George, Geraldo? No, but seriously, Band of Brothers is absolutely amazing. It's if you want to get an idea of not just the fighting part of war, but every aspect of what goes through a soldier's life, you owe it to yourself to check out Band of Brothers.
Yeah, perfect marriage between documentary and Hollywood movie almost. It's a 10 1-hour, TV series.
Yeah, I haven't done. They also did The Pacific, which I have not seen yet. The Pacific.
What?
No, I have not.
No,
seen.
Oh,
that is actually a really good series too.
that's amazing. I mean, the first time around I watched it, I didn't think it was as good as Band of Brothers. But the second time I watched The Pacific, I actually think I liked it even more.
All right, well, that is it for Screaming Eagles.
And that's it for today.
Dude, I would pay you money not to do that again. Don't do that.
I'm going to hell.
Don't worry, I'll see you there, buddy. All the cool people go to hell. So I think we all know what the rules are now. We should know what the rules are. You better know what the rules are. We had some fun. We got to learn on. Now it's time for some music. So listen up. I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to pause. We're going to listen to this song in its full entirety in 3, 2, 1. Sabaton Screaming Eagles official music video. Let's play it for all the lovely, beautiful people. Nuts. Nuts. I'm going to play the end credits out of respect for the people who made such an awesome music video. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, what an awesome music video. All right. A lot of attention to detail. It's one of Sabaton's, looks like in my mind right here, what, 11, from what I'm watching here, 12 years ago, 11 million plus views, 100K plus likes. It should be at a million likes, in my opinion. But hey, you know what? Is what it is. I think it should have far more likes, far more views. I'm really impressed also with the accuracy with some of the armaments, uniforms, and of course special effects. The song was beautiful and gave justice to the Screaming Eagles of the 101st Airborne, band of brothers through and through. The world owes them a debt. And so I want to ask some of y'all hip cool cats this. Did you ever meet someone from the 101st Airborne? Do you have a family member that's part of the 101st Airborne that took part in that campaign of the liberation of Europe? Do you know anyone close in your vicinity about that? What stories would you like to share in our comment section below? Please take good care of yourselves. Shout out to the 101st and everyone else that partook in the Battle of the Bulge at Bastogne. And nonetheless, take good care of yourselves and each other. And may we all have a better and hopefully wonderful holiday. I know we're still in November. Christmas is almost upon us, technically. December is just right around the corner. So until then, take good care of yourselves and each other. My name is Kit. This has been Americans Learn. Please support Sabaton History. The original link to this video is in the description box below. Take care and all the best. I'm up out of here.